Have you ever wondered why some relationships seem to fizzle out quickly, even despite tremendous attraction and connection at the start of this relationship dynamic? And yet other relationships seem to withstand the test of time, growing stronger and stronger each and every day. Well, if this is a burning question that's been on your mind and you'd like to learn more, today we are going to talk about how secure attachment actually creates a dynamic where it moves us just from pure infatuation and into love. And we will also talk about why most relationships don't actually make it out of the power struggle stage of connection and how these things are all connected. And my hope for you is that by the end of this video, you have much deeper insight into yourself, into your relationships, and in a way that can prevent you from potentially losing somebody that you love in the future. So if you're new here, my name is Thais. I'm the founder of the Personal Development School. And I put daily content out here on this channel after running a client practice for about 10 plus years. And of course, a lot of educational content at the Personal Development School itself. So if you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing. So first and foremost, I think it's really important to recognize that love and infatuation are two different things. And I'm going to break this down into a really sort of systematic way here. So we, based on the work of Dr. Susan Johnson, have 6 stages of a relationship. I've sort of adapted the dating and honeymoon stage and separated these out. But the first stage is the dating stage itself. And this stage of relating is basically to vet somebody. It's to see and ask questions and understand, is this person a good fit for your life? And are you a good fit for theirs? And ideally, in the dating stage of relationships, we are not just, running a million miles an hour into, oh, this is, we've got some chemistry. This is exciting. We're having a nice time together. Let's think about a big future together. Ideally, we're actually pretty clear going into dating about what standards we have in a relationship, what our non-negotiables are. Things like having kids versus not having kids, where we want to live, what type of lifestyle we want to have. I've seen a non-negotiable as an example be that I had a client whose parent passed away from lung cancer. And for her, a non-negotiable was to not date a smoker, right? So these are very personal things. And ideally in the dating stage, we're asking questions to assess if this person, is able to fit into what we're really desiring, what we're really looking for, and what's really important to us. Once we get into a space where we've assessed and we've found that that is something that works for us, we enter into some sort of commitment. And this brings us to the honeymoon stage. And usually in the honeymoon stage, we have, the butterflies, the infatuation, we feel really connected. We want to spend all of our time with somebody. But the interesting part about the honeymoon stage is that generally, in varying ways, we still have the mask on. So the mask has not come off yet. Okay. We're in a position, for example, where we're still kind of on our best behavior. We're not showing like our deep fears and flaws and insecurities too much yet. But as we become more and more comfortable, and generally this starts happening about a year and a half into relationships, give or take. Sometimes it's as early as a year. Sometimes it's as late as 2 years into the relationship. We start setting foot into the next stage, which is the power struggle stage. Now, statistically, this is where most relationships break up, of course, as you can imagine. And it is within the power struggle stage that we will generally see more arguing and more pain points and challenges. Now, most relationships that people go through start off in this super infatuation stage and the dating and honeymoon stage, which are both marked by increased infatuation, chemistry, connection. And then as we move into the power struggle stage, we start getting used to somebody and we sort of drop the mask and we start opening up more and showing and sharing our true selves with somebody. It is at that point that usually relationships break up. And so most people's full concept of what a relationship looks like is that it starts off with all this infatuation. And then it goes into all this fighting in the power struggle stage, all this arguing and all these misunderstandings and friction. And then the relationship ends. And then we start over again and we go back, dating, honeymoon, power struggle, break up, repeat. But the problem with this is that we're never really moving this heightened infatuation into more unconditionally based love, which is actually what happens when we get out of the power struggle stage. So after the power struggle stage, we have the stability, the commitment, and ultimately the bliss stages of a relationship. The bliss stage is basically the honeymoon stage, except with more unconditional love. But how do we arrive there? What does that mean? And I think this is a really important concept because it can really change the way that we look at relationships overall. And it can also change the way that we approach conflict and challenge. So we look at the power struggle stage and what it takes to move out of that. I often think of sort of a tree. And if we water the tree and or a plant, we water the plant, we nourish the plant, the tree or the plant, it builds deeper and deeper roots and it's able to withstand, the storm more and more. Well, what happens when we go through the power struggle stage in love is there is a crisis because it's a power struggle, but there is also a really beautiful opportunity. And in the power struggle stage of relationships, the opportunity is that we get to lower the mask. We get to share our fears with somebody and let somebody into our inner world. And as we begin showing ourselves with less and less conditions, we can say, hey, I'm sensitive to inconsistency in our communication, and I really want us to be consistent. Or, hey, quality time is a big love language for me. Can we work on spending more time together, doing date nights, or being more present when we're hanging out together as a couple? When we start having these conversations where we can share our inner worlds, whether that be our needs, our love languages, whether that be our fears and the things that we need to help work together to be able to be considerate of each other's fears or flaws. As we do that, we are showing ourselves with less and less conditions. And it is as a result of that that we make space to be loved more unconditionally in our relationships. And the beautiful part of that is that it takes this exciting chemistry of infatuation and it moves it instead of it just into pain and argument and fighting and then the dissipation of a relationship and the power struggle. It moves it into a place where love runs much deeper. And we move the needle towards more unconditional love, because when you are literally sharing what you need and opening up to somebody and they are doing the same with you, you are building a lot more trust, a lot more care, a lot more consistency and consideration and depth in your relationship dynamic. And it's ultimately through that relationships are able to stand the test of time. And it's also through that things where, sometimes people, let's say you come and you come from trust wounds in your history. And so you're afraid to trust, right? And sometimes people who come from trust wounds in their history think, how could I ever trust somebody that how could I know that somebody won't leave me in 15 years if things ever get hard, or 10 years? And that can ultimately, for a lot of people who fear that, trigger commitment issues. But it's through making space to be seen, to be known, to be open to somebody. And it's through seeing their efforts towards considering you with your needs, with your flaws, with your fears, and being mindful of that. It's when we have those conversations that we build these much deeper roots that allow us to recognize that all of this work we put in, all this investment we put in to each other, right? That's the space where we're not willing to sacrifice a relationship for some, person you find attractive 10 years later, 15 years later, because there's such deep roots over here that ultimately this beautifully built, loving connection, this over here, a fleeting distraction somewhere, wouldn't really hold a candle to all of the investment and care and more unconditionally based love that has taken place within a relationship dynamic and that has been built. And that is ultimately where people will feel like they can trust, and they can also, earn more and more trust in that relationship dynamic, because when you do communicate and you say what you need or you say what you fear, you actually see the visible action of your partner trying to move in the direction of being mindful and caring about those things that you're expressing to them. And so it is through that work that ultimately your bond is growing closer and closer, deeper and deeper. And it's like that tree that's building more and more roots in the ground, where if there is a big storm, it's not just the sapling of the dating or honeymoon stage. It's, a full tree with deep roots that's existed after the power struggle stage has occurred. And so I think it's really important for us to recognize infatuation is a beautiful part of relating. And when you get to the bliss stage, you'll still have these feelings of chemistry and connection and infatuation, but it's much more overshadowed by this deeper sense of love and commitment and care and trust and support. And when those two things come together, that's really how we're getting to the bliss stage. So I do have other videos on this channel about like the commitment stages, after the stability stage. So it goes power struggle, then stability, then commitment, then bliss stages. There's lots of content on this channel. I also have a course you can check out fully for free if you're interested more in like the attachment styles and not only what secure relationships look like, but how each attachment style kind of navigates each of these different stages of a relationship and what may come up and what action steps you can take towards healing and growth so that you can really make it to the bliss stage of your relationship dynamics. So if you want to check that out fully for free, you're welcome to using the link down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to this channel. I would love to have you here as a part of the community. Thank you so much for watching today, and I can't wait to see you in the future.